as I was saying, I was very excited for the Shabbat. Not only is it the anniversary of becoming bar mitzvah and remembering all of those sweet moments with my grandparents and my parents and my brother celebrating in Tampa. And earlier this week, some of you were able to join me as my dad and I got a chance to teach. And some of the people who were at my bar mitzvah were able to watch me as a rabbi all of these years later and enjoy it. It was truly, truly sweet and wonderful. And so here I am on the bima wearing the talit of my bar mitzvah. My parents are here, and we were going to have an opportunity to celebrate with our graduating high school seniors, including my daughter Adina, who is getting ready to graduate high school, and yes, she will be a Florida Gator. I am proud of her just because she's a wonderful human being. It's going to be fun to go to Gainesville, and don't worry, there was no pressure in the Bernholtz house to go to the University of Florida. That was the plan. But we also know humans plan, and we say God laughs, but usually when we say that, it's because we have tears in our lives. I say that knowing that here we are, and I'm guessing that most of you read the news from Israel in the past 24 hours. We've been talking a lot in our congregation about the counting of the Omer, about those 50 days when you go from Egypt to Mount Sinai. And Lag BaOmer is one of the significant days. It's a tipping point of the counting of the Omer. As you are going through those 50 days, this was a day that the plague of Akiva's students ended. There were thousands of his students who had died, and the plague ended on Lag BaOmer. And there's this whole story about Shimon Bar Yochai, this incredible mystic who was from the time of the Romans. And when he encountered the Romans, he came out of his cave. It's a wild story on Lag BaOmer. And some of you have heard of Lag BaOmer and know about the bonfires and the parties and the celebrations, and some of you probably have never heard of Lag BaOmer, this 33rd day of the counting of the Omer. But I share that with you because what did we hear starting yesterday from the state of Israel? That hundreds of thousands or 100,000 Jews had gone out to Mount Meron. They had gone to the grave of Shimon Bar Yochai. This is a huge pilgrimage every year to go and celebrate Lag BaOmer at Shimon Bar Yochai's grave. And in the midst of that celebration, there was tragedy, accident, human error, all kinds of different things. This was certainly not malice. This was certainly not sinat chinam, senseless hatred. This was just something didn't work right. And we've heard reports of over 40 people, over 45 people have died, and countless more are injured. It's just heartbreaking to hear this news from Israel. So how do you celebrate Lag BaOmer even as we are watching this tragedy unfold in the land of Israel? And when you start talking about 45 people in Israel, realize that in hundreds of people injured, it doesn't take long before you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, whether you are in that part of Israel and witnessing it, or whether you have a loved one who was there or a loved one who was lost. It is something that gravely impacts that whole nation, that whole country. So my heart was already heavy coming into this night. And then earlier this evening, some of you probably have heard from local news, there was a young person, somebody who's getting ready to graduate, who lost their life earlier today. And it impacted many of our high school seniors who know this, who knew this individual, and it's going to impact our community in lots of powerful and horrible ways in this graduation season, seeing a young person lose their life. So I'm sitting there heavy with this news from far away, but has a connection to me. And then we also have this news from right here in our community. I'm supposed to be celebrating. I'm supposed to be joyous. It's an anniversary. We're getting ready for all of this excitement for Adina graduating high school and her new adventures in life, just watching so much with our kids and with our family and our congregational family. Do you realize if this is Liam Livingston and Adina and Abby and Drew Sternberg and Jack Zoltag, Liam was one of my first baby namings when I arrived here. These are the kids that were born after I got here. This is my first baby naming class, and I'm getting to watch them graduate high school. This was supposed to be celebration, and yet I find myself here with you with an incredible, heavy, heavy heart. And so what do you do? How are you supposed to respond? Everyone keeps, it's like, what are we supposed to say about what happened in Israel? I've seen beautiful posts. I've seen incredible words. People are reaching out in all sorts of different ways. And so I bring us to our Torah portion this week, to Parshat Emor, because it says something really incredible. It does something really, really, really incredible. It says, you are going to observe a rhythm of life. 6 days a week you're going to work, and on the seventh day you're going to take Shabbat. Week in and week out. 6 days of work, a seventh day of Shabbat. And then you're going to start to add other holidays to it, the Feast of Matzah when we came out of Egypt, and the Feast of Weeks when we arrived at Sinai, and the Feast of Sukkot as God took care of our people, and there's going to be a day for the sounding of shofar, and then 10 days later, a day of atonement. All of our holidays are laid out in this Torah portion of Emor. And you hear me say, we're Jews. I mean, I was doing interfaith dialogue earlier this week, and Swami Dumavadi from Kashi Ashram said that the Hindus might be the only ones who have as many holidays as the Jews. And we got a great laugh at that, because usually when we have our interfaith community meeting, I'm the first to say, guess what Jewish holiday it is now? We have a lot of holidays. And you're probably saying, Rabbi, how does celebrating holidays or having the sense of time, how does it even begin to help us facing these senseless, powerful, awful losses, loss of human life, injury, the fabric of life is torn. And I remembered a beautiful teaching from Rabbi Harold Kushner. Some of you might know of Harold Kushner. He wrote a beautiful book called When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Sheldon, you knew him. You knew his son. His son, I never knew him personally. I've read a couple of his books. And you and I have talked about it. His son died quite young, and he wrote this beautiful book called When Bad Things Happen to Good People. It's incredible theology for dealing with moments like these. But it's actually a different text that he wrote that I call your attention to. And it is his book on Psalm 23. Harold Kushner in his book on Psalm 23 says something very simple and something powerful. He says, what's the verb? You walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You don't run, you don't sit, you walk. Even paced step by step. And so often I teach people when they are saying goodbye to someone they love, when they are facing a loss, that is what we remember, to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And when you're tempted to run, you want to just get it over with and you want to race through it, let someone you know take you by the elbow and slow you down and pace you so you're able to do what you need to do, and don't just try to get through it. Or, I think this probably goes for more of us, when you are tired and you are sad and you are miserable and you don't know why and your questions aren't answered and you are broken and you just want to sit, you let someone you know, someone you love, someone take care of you and take you by the elbow and give you a little ruach and koach and help you pace step by step, getting you to move through that valley of the shadow of death. That is a verb of space, that you're supposed to take these measured steps and walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And I think it is also the beauty of our experience of time. And I say that simply and powerfully because of this. That is what our holidays and this rhythm of time is all about. The way that Jewish time is structured is to remind us of that incredible act of space. That we are supposed to pace ourselves through life. When we are tempted to rush to be able just to get through into the next thing, we have one holiday after another. Stop. Count the Omer, each day of the Omer, and then you're going to get to Shavuot. And then you get a chance to count the days, to count the time as you get to Tisha B'Av. And then once you get to Tisha B'Av, then you can start counting and get to the High Holy Days. Our calendar laid out in Emor gets us to slow down and feel those moments to get to the place where we need to be. And I will say it also does the opposite. When we are tempted, when we are feeling, when we look at what happened in Israel, we're going to experience here in this community, when your soul is crushed, when you're worn out, when you feel lost, how powerful it is, how beautiful it is that our tradition says, wait, you can't stop. There is a holiday coming, a holy day. Here are some of the things you can do. Here is a community to gather with to help lift you up, give you a little bit of ruach and koach, spirit and strength, so that step by step, moving forward. Here we are dealing with this, but we keep moving forward to Shavuot. And once we get to Shavuot, then we can get and move towards Tisha B'Av. Whether it is sitting in the valley of the shadow of death or trying to run through it, our rhythm of our holidays comes forward. Because we as a community using that rhythm get people to slow down or get a chance to lift people up so we can get to that place of shalom. It is my hope and my blessing that this day where I had hoped for sweetness and celebration, instead I have a heavy heart, that you and a lot of you have already been doing as we have been counting the Omer, continue to find ways to reach out and care for each other, to lift each other up. Maybe it's to slow down and count those steps of the Omer, or maybe it's to give somebody a little bit of that smile, a little bit of light and love when they think they can't go any further because we're tired of the pandemic, because we've lost so many people, because we don't understand why all of this is happening, whether we see racial strife or economic challenges or environmental and climate change. Are there ways that we can lift somebody up, bring them into the circle of our caring community? That is the message of Parshat Emor. That is why we have that rhythm of time to slow us down, to lift us up, to draw us as a community so we can take that journey to a place that is full of shalom, of wholeness, harmony, and peace. Amen, and Shabbat Shalom.